Could be one of those days. Can only get better from here, though, right? It is a Friday, and we're live at Circa Las Vegas, so how bad can it be? Ultimate contest weekend. This is the Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. I'm Joe Reinagle. He is Jason Minnick.
And Lindsay Rhodes from Sumer Sports joining us here at Circa Las Vegas, although can't believe you're about to get on a plane and leave.
I know,
the
on a
weekend
Friday
is here.
night, right?
What?
Like I'm doing this I'm doing this wrong.
Uh-huh.
I got here Tuesday night. I was like, where's the party? No.
Yeah. And now you're like, okay, my liver and wallet need a break. I need to go home.
All of the things.
Yeah.
All of the above. I tell you what, thanks for stopping in. We got a chance to visit with you on Radio Row at the Super Bowl last year. And imagine that. We were talking about Micha Parsons' contract.
And we're still talking about Micha Parsons. But also at that exact moment, didn't we know we would still be here?
Yes. And what you guys do, you went and put in your computers, your magic, and you're like, here's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember. I think it was in the 30s at the time.
I think so too. I want to say it was probably like, okay, hold on. Let me pull up. I want to say maybe like 36 is where we were staying at the time. And now, guess how much more expensive he just got? Like in the last few months. It's wild. The number of people, I mean, not to beat a dead horse. I feel like we have this conversation over and over and over again. But like, Max Crosby, Daniil Hunter, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, everyone went top of market since we had that conversation.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are we doing here? Because now you're not going to come in under TJ Watt. Like, That's just not how this works. So you're going to go above 41 now. We just got way more expensive. Have fun with this. Good job.
If you're Micha, don't you just wait? The longer you wait, the more you're going to make.
100%. I actually think that the fact that they dragged their heels so much benefits him. And although, I mean, clearly not in terms of his happiness quotient at this point. Like, the fact that it can't feel good for somebody who's actually very, very good at what they do, to have their job status being discussed in the manner that it's being discussed publicly. Like for Mr. Jones to go on and talk to Stephen A. Smith and liken the situation to a kid asking for a cookie before dinner, as if having a professional representative in there to negotiate a contract is like the dad or the mom undercutting what the other person. It's I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. I tell you, the whole thing is interesting, but this media tour that Jerry's on is just kind of making it worse, I think. But Jerry knows. I think Jerry feels slighted. His feelings are hurt a little bit. He thought he had a deal. And the fact that he pretty much has Micha for 3 years if he wants to.
Yeah, I mean, he can continue to tag, and he doesn't have to do anything. I do think that there are repercussions to that, though.
Yeah.
Although one could argue, does it matter? Like, aren't the repercussions as far as what this does to a locker room and how it makes people feel devalued by a franchise, and it makes free agents not want to come and sign there? I feel like all of those things maybe exist already. And so can it get worse in that department? I don't know.
Well, and what big free agent have the Cowboys brought in? Trying to think, was it Brandon Carr years ago? I mean, think about it. They that's not the way the Cowboys do business, and this is par for the course, which is Jerry has a method and a philosophy. He believes in it.
Yeah.
31 other teams do it differently.
Yes.
Who's right? The other 31. And Jerry doesn't see it.
I wouldn't necessarily say I agree that the process of the other 31 is correct. You could certainly point to a handful of those other 31 and suggest that they are right because the results on the field have been more consistently better, right? With the pieces that they have, they're getting better results out of it consistently. What I think is fascinating about you brought up something that made me think of the fact that their front office is actually very good. Mm-hmm. There's so many people in this Cowboys front office that are really good at identifying talent. They draft so well, which is maybe part of the good process that they don't need to go pay all of these free agents off the street. And they find themselves in this position so frequently where we're having conversations about paying the guys that they did draft top market when their contract comes up. So that all does point to the fact that there are really smart people in that building that are giving them good pieces to work with. And then this is the small sliver of way that I think that they're messing it up. Right. But there are, you could look at in terms of draft picks and percent of hits compared to what is normal across the league. And you could make an argument that the Cowboys front office is actually one of the better front offices in the league, which is not actually a conversation that anyone has, because Mr. Jones goes on TV, and these kinds of specific situations are the ones that we end up talking about. But I have come around to the fact that I think that the only logical explanation is that he actually, we have a thing in, it's like called earned media, where like you will go on a radio show and you talk about your company, and then you're like, okay, so what's an ad? What would an advertising spot on that show cost? And so we just essentially saved us that much money because we're talking about our product or pointing people to our show, right? And so that's money that we didn't have to spend in marketing. I think that this is that's the only logical explanation, is that he looks at all of this as unearned media or earned media. That he's like, what does an ad cost on SportsCenter and Get Up?
Yep.
And they're talking about us every single day. And maybe it's there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think he's leaning into that.
Well, I think Jerry does lean into that. It's interesting that you put it that way, and we try to figure out and get in the side of the head of Jerry Jones. I just want to ask you in general, though. It seems like the amounts of guaranteed monies that are being paid now.
Yeah.
And Jerry has said this before, and I've heard other owners say it too. And then a guy gets hurt, and you're still stuck having to pay the guy. And I think owners are getting a little, I don't know, for lack of a better word, gun shy when it comes to all this guaranteed money they're having to put out there.
But there are types of guaranteed money, right? I mean, in general, just as a general concept, yes, the numbers are going up, but also the income is going up, and that's why the numbers are going up. It's all a percent of the cap, or which goes up consistently because the percent of income goes up consistently. Like the amount of money that the teams are making from all the broadcast deals that consistently get more and more and more expensive. I mean, I understand the concept, but that is the price of doing business.
Sure.
And that's true in every business.
Right.
You have to spend money to make money. And this is the going rate for someone of that caliber. So you can't stand alone in a corner and say, but it's so expensive and it's not fair. I mean, especially when the players can say, what is unfair is that you can give me a 5-year contract and it'll have several void years at the end, and it's not actually that. And then you can cut me whenever, and you can structure the contract so that works out in the advantage of the business, which in many cases, a lot of these contracts that we get the numbers of, I think we're all savvy enough at this point to know. And you see people constantly, like James Cook got paid and people went, wait till the terms come out.
Yep.
It's never exactly what, the insiders are reporting immediately, because those are texts that they're getting oftentimes from the agent. And so it's presented in a way that is technically factually correct, but like maybe is a little bit also incorrect, because they want to make it look as good for their client as possible.
And
Sure.
for them and for their next client, as we
100%.
visit with Lindsay Rhodes here at Circa Las Vegas. You're on the Blitz on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. And Troy Aikman talked about this during the broadcast Monday night. Micah's only leverage is they can't win without him. You can hide a defensive player more so than, say, a quarterback or a wide receiver. Jerry and the Cowboys say they're not really entertaining trade offers. They're not taking calls. Apparently, they're getting them. What could the Cowboys get for Micha Parsons?
That's a great question. God, I don't have the trade comp right in front of me. The one that we have sort of stuck to the most is the Khalil Mack trade when he went to the Bears from Las Vegas.
Correct.
I remember around Super Bowl when we were talking about Myles Garrett, and you're talking about pretty much all of the top tier edge rushers. I think are going to fit that slot, except for Trey Hendrickson. And I think that that's related to age in a lot of ways. And so I don't think he's necessarily going to get quite that haul. I think you're probably looking at maybe something closer to like a second for Trey Hendrickson, which I think becomes an interesting conversation for a lot of teams, right? Micha Parsons would be more expensive. And I don't know that I don't know how many teams are going to do that at this stage of the year. I just don't know that that's where this is going. And I also just don't believe for a second that the Cowboys would do it. Like, they have to be competitive this year. They have to be. And how do you pull that off without Micha Parsons on the field? I mean, you could argue Trey Hendrickson, going back to him. Like, I don't know how much he tilted in terms of wins and losses, right? He was on the field for the Bengals, and he had an incredible defensive player of the year caliber year, and it still didn't.
That defense was terrible.
And it still didn't put them over the top from a defensive standpoint. But then I look at that and I say, yeah, but if you lifted him out of that, like that was with him, like
how much worse
can you imagine? Right? So I'm not sure that necessarily moves any lines in terms of wins, losses on the season if you lift Micha out. But I think you desperately need him out there. I think they're going to get it done. I think he's going to pay him. That's the pattern that he's established too. He talks about not wanting to, the mom or the dad to undercut with the cookie. Well, you keep undercutting yourself. You're the parent who goes, every time I say I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to go on the Jerry rant. And then it just, anyway. But it's like as a parent, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to hold your ground because you're like, God, this is getting annoying and I'm running out of time. And like, okay, fine, just go do it. And even then you're like, I needed to hold my ground so that I have credibility the next time. Jerry always comes through. He always does at the last minute and pays these people. So he has been the parent who has said, you can't have a cookie, and then goes, okay, fine, just go away. I'm really busy. Just have a cookie. And then the next time you want to go, yeah, that's the part no one's talking about here. It's not the mom or the dad undercutting the other person. It's you. It's the single parent changing their mind and going against what they originally said.
It's just a weird thing because CeeDee Lamb was signed August 29th. Dak Prescott got his deal, 2 hours before game one. So as we sit here on August 22nd, it's like, okay, everything's fine.
Back in the Zeke day, right? Like, I mean, we're like actually like missing some time, and then, okay, fine, have it all.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's crazy.
It is. Lindsay Rhodes joining us here on the Blitz. Now, how good do you think this Cowboys team can be? Now, I'll say that. I put some money down at Circa Sportsbook a little while ago.
Okay.
On the over 8.5.
I was going to ask, what is it? 8.5. 8.5 feels fairly low to me.
It does, right?
I remember earlier this offseason having a conversation with someone, and correct me if I'm wrong, has the line ever been closer to 10 for the Cowboys this year? Am I making that up?
I want to say it was 7.5.
Oh God, that's even lower.
And look, questions on the offensive line.
Yeah.
First time head coach. Don't know what he's going to be like, and I can see why some people would be down, and you're going off of last year. Hell, that team won 7 games last year with Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
They have a real running game this year, and he had it in George Pickens. I think they will be better. I don't know that they're going to win the East. They could win 10 games and not make the playoffs.
I agree. And so 8. Is it 8.5 or 8?
8.5.
Okay, so we got 9 win. I think that's entirely possible. Yeah, I think that's a little bit too low. If you went up to 9.5, and so we're like 10,
I wouldn't have touched it.
Then you just stay away. And I could see people betting both sides of that. 8.5 feels a little bit low to me. So I think your over might be safe there.
Well, let me tell you something that surprised me, and we were looking at it yesterday on the odds. The Patriots are 9.5.
Okay.
I mean, so the Patriots, they're thinking the Patriots are going to win more games than the Cowboys.
That's got to be. I wonder how much, and I would need to look at their schedule again to just remind myself, but I wonder how much of that is schedule related.
Could be.
I know people are very into the Patriots being much better, and there are a lot of people that think that the Patriots have just been sort of mismanaged to a degree. That's not a line I would touch.
No, I wouldn't touch that either.
That's that's too high for me to feel comfortable betting on. And I'm not saying that they won't get there. That's not the conversation. It's just, am I going to put my money on that? I don't think I feel comfortable on that.
Yeah.
Well, see, and again, it's Vegas. They're trying to make money. They're a business. So are they expecting a lot of money to come in then on the under with them? That's got to balance somewhere, but talking to some people here, that line hasn't moved for them. So the money's been kind of even.
That's really interesting. Going back to the Cowboys now you're talking about, or the Patriots.
The Patriots.
The Patriots are staying there.
Yeah. It's crazy. It could be scheduled because let's be honest. The Cowboys have a brutal schedule. especially in the middle of the season. It's tough.
I think a lot of these are schedule related, right? And but also I think a lot of the lines at this time of year feel like like you've pointed out, they want to make money, and so you want people to bet on both sides. And I think that the Patriots might be an interesting, from a narrative standpoint, an interesting test case in that they have a huge fan base that's had a couple of down years. And then the narrative this offseason has been, look at all the draft picks. Okay, so they changed the coach, and now they're like, yes, this is the right one. We're on the right path. This is all the good parts about the old Patriot way coming back, but also being modernized a little bit. We have a quarterback. I think everybody feels really strongly that Drake May looked very good last year and that they can work with that. They added a bunch of pieces because they had so many draft picks this year. So I think that there's a lot of reason to say, like, okay, this is a team. This is one of my sneaky teams to be a lot better this year. And to maybe, if there's a team that's going to come out of nowhere, so to speak, it's the Patriots. I think they might be capitalizing on that concept. And maybe it's just getting a little overweighted, because I do think that thought process is correct. The number just feels a little bit too high to pay off that thought process.
I'm not taking that number.
Not
I wouldn't
at
touch
all.
that with a 10-foot pole.
Lindsay Rhodes of Sumer Sports. You remember her from NFL Network and a bunch of other places. For people that aren't familiar, especially as you're getting ready for fantasy drafts,
Yes.
the info you guys have, people need.
It's yes. So fantasy is a game of edges, because you're looking for value, right? Like, you can play it as casually as you want to play it. You can be, and the edges and the value, it's sort of baked into the rankings that you're going to see pop up in your screen if you want to hop into your draft room, not think about it at all. But if you want to really get competitive about it and go find people, there are edges to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those are found in advanced data and trying to find out which stats are more predictive than others. We did a series this offseason for our podcast, the Sumer Sports Show, called the Sticky Stat Series. And we took each position group, and we had our senior data scientist, Sam Bruckhouse, go back through history and figure out which are the stats that actually are most predictive of behavior from year to year. And sometimes that just means that they're going to be consistently the same, not that they are telling you who is good, but they're telling you these stats are likely to remain consistent. Like, a good example of that is average depth of target. Average depth of target doesn't tell you whether somebody is good or not, but somebody's average depth of target doesn't usually fluctuate a ton. You're not going to have, as a wide receiver, a 5 ADOT, on average. And then the next year you're like a 12 ADOT. You're not suddenly running go routes all the time, right? But there are stats that are a little bit more predictive, that are advanced. And so we did a whole series on that. If you're interested in going, kind of checking out maybe at this time of your wide receiver, quarterback, and running back, to see how you can gauge environments to help better predict which guys are going to come out of nowhere, which guys are the good value picks for fantasy.
Nice. And where do people find the show and your website and all that kind of stuff?
YouTube, Sumer Sports. It's SUMER. So all of the social media channels, wherever you get your podcasts, the main keyword would be SUMER Sports.
And follow her on Twitter.
Yes.
Lindsay_Rhodes.
Thank
It's
you.
a great follow.
Yeah, thank
good
you
intel,
so much.
always.
Yeah.
This is a fun time of year, you guys. This is my favorite time of year. First of all, the fantasy stuff, in addition to the real world football stuff. But then also, like, we're having all of these conversations that feel very like, what's going to happen? It's predictive. We're trying to solve the puzzle. And then there's week 1, which is one of my favorite weeks of the entire year, because you just sit down, you get all the answers.
Yep.
Like, this is the first time that we're actually going to see what these offensive coordinators and offenses want to do, who the priorities are in the offense. I just love this time of year. It's my favorite.
I'll be happy when tonight's over, tomorrow's over, and all the preseason stuff, and we start looking towards week 1.
I know.
Right?
I know. And then my number one piece of fantasy, well, it's not, but it's one of my pieces of fantasy advice, is if you are not a hyper serious fantasy person and you don't want to do waivers every week, week 1, do the waiver wire. Because that's when we're predicting all these rookies in the lower rounds. We're going to get answers in week 1 about who actually does have value, who is on the field a lot. Go hit the waiver wire in week 1 if you never do it for the rest of the year.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Lindsay Rhodes, I know you got to catch a plane. Although you could change it and spend your weekend here in Vegas.
Let's party, guys.
Let's go.
Exactly.
Add a night.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.